And thank you everyone for being here. This is a completely different, actually, topic from the previous, from numbers, the art and creative side of making games and what it means to actually, what is the story and how a story can affect the players and all in all sales. Before how many creatives in the room we have, and I don't mean about game art, but writers, any creative side. Excellent, awesome. Because no offense to others or any other development team, publishing side, marketing, but we are now going to dig into the creative side and especially the story focused. But yeah, a bit about myself for those who don't know me. I'm in the industry in Finland and abroad, but currently CEO and creative director of MiTale. MiTale is a company that is making narrative-driven mixed reality stuff. So I think that, again, you can pull me for sleeve later and we can talk about that. But now, all in all, we will talk about the visual storytelling. So among the other things, I'm also, regarding the industry, I'm also teaching game design and game art at the University of Turku, and this is why the topic of visual storytelling is extremely, I'm very, very passionate about, and I work with my students very closely with this topic. So let's start. When it comes to visual narrative, basically there is nothing new as a concept itself. It's as old as time. It's as old as the kind of human expression when it comes to any sort of drawing, any kind of like when Homo sapiens started actually making something. That was the moment when the visual storytelling came. And also making from the image to story itself, like the spoken story, another way around from the voice to image. So now we are facing the opportunities in games, because games are a completely new medium of expression. Games are pretty much everywhere around us. It's not anymore that just like being entertainment, something that you sit and play. I mean, everything around us is gamified. I mean, you have your phone, even your regular tasks during the day are becoming. So this is where we live now, and that is the future, especially when it comes to what we can do with games and how much effect the story has there. And by story, again, I do not mean the walls of text. I'm talking about how we can people, players, users, depends what kind of product you're making, because as mentioned, games are everywhere, meaning gamification is a very big thing, and serious games and the whole future of learning is in. So yeah, basically, when it comes to how we do it, well, from Wikipedia, this is just like regular explanation of what visuals is. But as said, this is nothing new. Throughout the history, I mean, not just history of art, but all the other disciplines of philosophy are very much into the visual, the visual analysis, like how does the visual and the story go hand in hand. I mean, one of the most common examples that are closest to us when it comes to age is still, let's say, church art, because for those who don't, well, all these images, frescoes in the churches would be the ones explaining, like, where your life will go if you're sinful and so forth. But so that's kind of like we respond to images much stronger than to any other senses when it comes to actually learning and adjusting and remembering, because image stays in our mind so much longer than any other medium. So when it comes to games, why do we play games? We play games mainly to actually fulfill certain fantasy, and it's pretty much connected to a fantasy, personal fantasy. I'm not talking, because each game, of course, has their own fantasy world and all world building and whatnot. But why do we play games? We play games, most of the cases, at least that's my case, especially when I was this small, is that I'm avoiding reality. I'm avoiding being part of this world and everything else what's coming up. So yeah, this is our escape, the fulfillment that we see and want to achieve throughout the medium that is given to us. And when it comes to story, this is where we really get thick. Like the gamers, the hardcore gamers are really, really into, because you have to, I will very briefly go through the design process, because design is going hand in hand, of course, with all the visual and story and all other aspects, because the game is all one mixture of every single what makes the game as a result what we want to go through as an adventure. But so the main aspect there, the story, is the fantasy. Some you are into. Do you want to be a knight or whatever else, a princess, or to be saved, or to save the princess? Either way, like it's there for you, and you don't need, again, as I said, wall of anything else. Throughout the visual UX, design, UI, all the other stuff that you have there inside there, the story itself is taking you forward throughout the game, achieving your goals. And so how does it work? Again, nothing is new when it comes to this sort of like art theory. And so there's like books and like libraries are filled with those. So, and it's all free for you to go and take the knowledge out. Now, how do we implement that in games? Because, for example, well, here we are here in London, and London has one of the biggest treasures of the art worldwide. So, and it's all free again to see. So, for example, Holbein is here. And this painting itself can be written like 3 books about, just like analyzing this, like what's happening there when it comes to story, backstory, and so forth. So, this is is the discipline that is actually studying the meaning, and it's based on the words mostly, on the language, and then the same principles are adjusted or used in the visual analysis as well. But I'm not going to, as I said, I have only like 15 minutes, so so it's really important. The color, all the elements of the art piece itself is something that is actually creating this whole experience to you as a viewer of the painting. But this is something that happens in games, because every time, however, no matter is it a 2D or 3D game, no matter where you are turning around, each time you have that one sequence, you have that one sort of capture and the composition, which is painting itself and telling you the story of that particular angle. So we as developers have actually a lot of pressure there. I don't know, are you actually aware of that? But these are the things: color, shape, size, tone, and many other elements that are from the regular art production, as in classical arts, are essential in designing the world and in designing how the game will go and how you're going to lead your player through your game. Yes. This is nothing new, and the AAA games are doing that. So lots of also indie games are doing it, but not much in mobile, at least not yet. Some, of course, do with the premium, but free-to-play is going to a completely different direction. But however, this is, again, one of the examples how you can see, like, this is the why we enjoy, let's say, Horizon Zero Dawn aesthetics. Like, why team spent 7 years on creating this world with such magic and such story, that again, there is a lot of course, written and spoken and whatnot, but there is so much story you have in the scenery, in the stuff, on every single character, every single trickly on it, it's its own characteristic, and that is the beauty and the power we have as game developers, what we can deliver forward. Another example. I just took the most obvious example. I'm sure that you are all aware of Horizon Zero Dawn and Deus Ex, but as mentioned, there is it's going hand in hand with the game development. Like, how do you actually create that world? How do you visual expression? And so when you start with the game, how do you creating the game? Sort of like the most, like, this is very simplified, but it's like you imagine the game, you define how it works, describe the elements, and convey information to the player or forward. So these are all the things that you have to have in mind. What your player has to know where he or she is, what is the goal, how to get there. If it's not succeeding, need some more equipment or whatnot, how to get that and go forward. So this is also visually very important to highlight, like, communicate to your player. Yeah, some different challenge modes, because again, different genres of the games, different play modes require different approaches in the visual expression, like how you are going to actually, because it's used to, let's say, RPGs or let's say first person or third person shooter, for example. You have to, because the previous games already taught the player what and how should behave in that, so you kind of want to have that user experience there. So it's really important to knowing what type of game you are making that is going to lead your creative direction in most of the cases, because you don't want to confuse your players and your core audience. Of course, novelty is always great, so if you find a better way, and I will show some really great ways how they, in few games recently, they really kicked ass with the UI design, like, oh my God. But yeah, so otherwise you can always play with the known stuff. And these are some of the elements of how to and what to use from the regular artwork sort of principles of development to the game creative side. And so again, always have in mind what the receiver / player is actually having. So what do I see, meaning like how it goes, how is the work organized, because you have to, whatever happens on the screen, you don't want to have competition between different actions to lead the player to know that this is priority, that is priority, like then I go there, then I go. So with animation especially, this is really important to have in mind, how you are going to communicate the priorities, also what happens on the screen, because you have mess on the screen. And for those who, how many of you actually have concept artists in your team or work with concept artists? I knew it. Yeah, like 3 hands. Okay, the reason why concept art is really important, not because I'm an artist by my occupation, but just really important, is that it's cheap as fuck. You would, with a concept artist, solve so many development issues, because you have an artist to put all these grand ideas from all the team around, put on that and put all the team members on one page. That's what we do. We solve your problems. And this is something that still developers don't understand. And I really recommend warmly, get some free, nothing else. Work with concept artists, because you're gonna save so much money when things are not working. Well, yeah, if you had stuff planned out properly and showed what 3D modeler or programmer is supposed to do and how it's supposed to look and do, yeah, you will save us in time. But in production of concept art, it goes a bit different from the traditional creation. So when you are an artist, a painter, let's say, so you have an idea, you decide kind of which elements and use and what mediums and so on. So you create a composition, and then after that, like you can change the methods and so forth. You convey your message through your art, and then you have a goal, like what your art piece is actually there. What is it? What you want your viewers to experience. In concept art or in the game art per se, it kind of goes the other way around, because the team comes, or whoever is the designer, with whoever you work, there is a goal, right? We want you to make, sexy chick fighting in the tribal setup, fighting robot dinosaurs. Yep, all right, so that's a goal. So you have a goal, you start with that goal. And from that, you go through the what is the message, why I'm doing it, how is it go? So that's where the story kind of starts clicking together. And then you're creating this whole composition environment and so forth, using all the elements that you can from the art production, as like color scheme, all that, atmosphere, creating the world itself. And then you have to think about usability, like, is that actually functional? Because again, if you create something, no matter how cool it is, if it's not actually gonna work in that world, because you have to be, how crazy world it is, make sure that the rules of that world stay as that. You do not change the rules of the world, no matter how wonky it might seem or crazy it is, but if those are the rules there, like gravity or how the characters move, that's the visual attitude there. So keep it, just don't break that, because then you break the fantasy if you do that to a player. And then at the end, most efficient, because can that actually run on the platform that you're targeting? So can this run on a mobile, or if can it run on a PS4 VR and so forth? So this is the thing, like, is it actually usable? So you have to make sure that it's as pretty as you, promised to your team, but also, can you actually use it? Is it cheap enough? So that's the concept art, super cheap, super cheap. Consider it. And all of these games, no matter what you are making, from kind of puzzles, Pac-Man and so on, to AAAs, they all have stories, and this is something that Pac-Man's story is really, really sad, but either way, this is what we connect to. This is what keeps us playing these games and going back. And one of my most favorite games to talk about, especially regarding semiotics with my students, is Thomas Was Alone. That's one of the games that absolutely rocked my world back in the day, with this sort of like, as art historian slash, academic all in all, I completely lost my mind with analyzing this game. It's absolutely brilliant. So if you haven't played it, please do, warmly for many reasons. And once again, no matter what it is and what you do, stick to your world that you are building. The reason why Zelda, for example, is so, let's say, unruined is that no matter of how much the progression has been gone and changes in the awesome graphics, all of that has been, still, the world is there. When you play Zelda, you know what you're gonna get. They were consistent and when it comes to the world and everything that makes you love Zelda. So this is why be consistent. No matter what world you make, no matter how ridiculous it is, or you are combining different things from the actual, let's say, fantasy, folklore, or whatnot, it's fine to combine, go wild. But whatever you decided that's the world, stick to it. Like Nier Automata, for example. I mean, seriously, with those awesome boots and high heels running through the desert, ain't gonna work. And they're aware of it. They don't even bother with that. But it's cool. It's fine. Like, and no player has been complaining about how real it is, or is it actually working? No, she's awesome there in the desert in her PVC boots. Totally fine. So this is the thing. Please do, and it's okay to be weird. It's fine. Like, just again, keep that weird, your culture in that game. But then there are some games that didn't really do that well, in my opinion, like Deadly Premonition and The Evil Within. I don't think that they were doing that. They were kind of changing things, and it didn't really work. I mean, it's okay to, the games at the end are fine, but I think that they failed this sort of visual storytelling and consistency. So I'm not saying they're bad games, I'm just saying that from this side. And then how it is from 2D to 3D, and how, for example, this, when I said from concept art, how do you go? So this is something that is really, really important to understand. So from concept art, creating the first version of the world, and then creating it into actually 3D. Animation. This is really tricky. I'm not going to go through in detail because the time is running, but it's really important to have what animation happens when, in order to not confuse the player. Again, it comes first, second, last. What is the primary, secondary, and so like the priorities. And yeah, also for especially young teams, concept art can sell your stuff to publisher and everyone else. So please consider having this, because images do sell. So if nothing else, they will show that you are really, like working really hard on your game idea forward. And here are some examples of a game called Clay that we are working. These are very early stuff, so I just wanted to show a few things regarding Clay, and also regarding but that's coming next. In the diversity of working with a big IP or the own IP, there's a lot to talk about that, but I would say that when you work with third-party IP, it's really important to follow, because all these rules and from the IP owner that you have to follow. On the other hand, make sure that you make your rules when you are making your game, because these rules are the ones that will make you not float away and completely have a shit ton of feature creeps in your game. So make sure that you have your rules for your team. And yes, so no matter what you do, once again, make sure the player to know what are the priorities, where I am, what am I doing, what challenges am I facing, did my choice make an action succeed or not, do I have what is needed successfully, am I in danger to lose a game, am I progressing or not, and how to. So expectations from the previous experiences regarding various types of genres, these are just some, of the games is actually easier for you also, because if they know what they want, let's say a roguelike game, yeah, give them that, because then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But then there is some really good, like Outlast, I know, Journey and so on, is and the audio in Hellblade, which is basically whole UI is audio. It's amazing stuff. And here is Clay. So from the very simple concept stuff into the game, which is a roguelike RPG, post-apocalypse story-driven game. And here is the video of it, and then that will be the end of my talk. This is a very early stage to which we didn't, because we don't want to show yet things that are brewing inside. But the team is working really hard and looks amazing in the current stage. So I'm very excited to work. Like fully narrative-driven experiences tailored for each player as they want it. And there, you can go wild. If I can do it, so can you. So basically, from concept to a result, they did this with kids, and it sells. So whatever you do with your ideas, make sure you go through with it, ship it. And as artists, light is your best friend, so make sure that use all the elements in the art production in order to get the best out of it. And don't be afraid to fail. Failing is a big part of becoming better next time, so there. Thank you very much.